I'm quite stunned, to be honest. Rishi Sunak stood on the doorstep of Number 10 and said that the UK was not a racist country because he was the first MP of Asian descent who had become Prime Minister. But what's quite clear is racism does exist in the UK, and it's incumbent on us as MPs to call it out. I think the second aspect of this is the very slow response of Number 10 when these comments were revealed. And I think it's important to remember that not only were those comments made about Diane Abbott, and I absolutely agree with Claire that, you know, this is a government that also talks about violence against women and how it's determined to tackle it. And here we are talking about violence against a woman, a prominent black woman. But there were other comments from that same event. And I'm sorry, I'm a former police officer. And when I think about when I dealt with cases or talked about cases where racism was an aspect to it, it's what the complainer thinks that is important and whether they feel it to be racist. And I think that when somebody says things that are racist, I think it's a fair assumption to assume that they are racist as a result of that. In terms of the donation, I think it's a no-brainer. I agree with Andrew, it should be returned. And then the other thing that we have with the Conservatives is they've got an unfortunate habit of putting people who make donations, significant donations to them, into the House of Lords. And I think there's an opportunity now for the government to set an example by ensuring that that will not be the case for Mr Hester. And my final point, going back to Carrie, because obviously I didn't have the chance to come in earlier, is the fact that, you know, how do we as MPs, what can we affect? Well, we can affect legislative change. Boris Johnson's government committed to bringing forward an employment law bill to make a number of changes to employment law. That never happened. That legislation was never brought forward. Now, bits and pieces of it have come through private members' bills. I was very fortunate one of them was mine. But there's an opportunity for the government, whatever government colour that might be as we approach a general election, to make a very clear stand from a legislative perspective that racism and discrimination is not tolerated in society and in the workplace.